All right, we might as well begin. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome back to the channel. If you like what we're doing, you like what we're saying, what you're saying, what we're seeing, what we're doing. If you like what you see, interested in watching more, definitely please like and subscribe. Hit that bell icon to be notified of any new videos when we publish them to YouTube. Yesterday in this series, we started catching up with some of the documentation, the QMS side of things. Touched on some of the project management stuff that we kind of were overlooking, mainly the Kanban board, just to make sure our tasks are on schedule. Since that really isn't the primary focus of the series, we're really looking more for like the documentation, the design, and assembly side. Mainly just touching a little bit on the project management. Again, next year, hopefully starting in January, I'll have videos, 3 separate series. One will be another design, one will be more in-depth QMS coverage, and the other will be more in-depth project management coverage. Basically all kind of revolving around another project that I want to do. But there'll be individual videos focusing on the specific aspects, even though each one's going to probably have to touch onto another subject, but their primary focus is going to be on those things. This series was a hodgepodge, my first run through attempt at doing something like this, so I've learned a lot. Saw some things I want, discovered a few things I wanted to do differently. So another thing I want to do is address something. So I was reviewing some of the invoices, make sure everything was updated. And I noticed when I ordered the PCBs, I accidentally selected 1 ounce copper weight instead of 2 ounce. We'll accept that as a deviance on the, we'll just accept that as a, basically we'll write up a deviance for it. It's fine. It's a prototype. With all the copper that we're putting around that stepper driver, there should be no problems. It shouldn't have any issues. But we'll make sure we, if we have to order another spin or anything, we'll make sure we set it up for 2 ounce copper and, get that properly coming in. That was my bad, my mistake. Must have, when I had to log in and adjust some things, must have rechanged some of the settings and I just overlooked it when I was going through clicking through everything. But that's okay. It's not going to cause us a problem. It's not a showstopper. So back to here. I want to finish up a few things. Again, I like the markdown, but we're just going to use basically Excel format using LibreOffice. It's just much easier to use a spreadsheet. So we want to kind of do the incoming inspection log. Because again, this is critical for the I don't know if I need the don't know if I need that one right now. So here, so let's come back to here and want to kind of we'll kind of build off of this. Now, as far as storing the results, again, that's something we're gonna have to go through and clean up and address down the road, because typically you would have some sort of basically controlled access, like controlled document vault. It would be either cloud storage that meets ISO requirements for, accessibility for permissions control, like who has the rights to do this or that, version control, or it would be a NAS drive, a server, storage space, that you could set permissions and control access, who has, readability only, who has the ability to write data, and then you have to have processes. So unfortunately, when you have a log file like this that gets constantly updated, version control becomes tricky, but it's not terribly tricky because you can set it up so that while you have the date of entry, and the date kind of serves as your versioning control. You're not like version 1, version 2. You don't have to increment the version every time you save this. you're basically using the date of the most recent entry as your version control. And then a method of having the people have access to actually save the data, and then the ability to push this data over to the control document location. Idealistically, it would be kind of cool, and who knows, maybe a project down the road to, unless something already exists for documentation or securing it in a web type environment, to where you can have all these different forms and all that, and give people access using a database or whatever. Who knows? But for our purposes, so we need basically a place to hold the file so it can be edited by the people who need to edit it, and then a method of pushing it over to the control document vault. That would be ideal in a corporate environment, and an environment where it's more than just you or just me. But for now, we're just going to say, okay, we're just going to be okay with what we have. So what we need, what I'm proposing that we do, so QMS, so that is where we technically want to store all the like work instructions, SOPs, things like that. But we need somewhere to store basically test results, result data, things like the incoming inspection reports. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new file here outside of QMS, and it just, let's see here, let's kind of give it a name that kind of works, because it's going to be like log files. We'll even store like, yeah, you know what? Reports, things like that, anything that gets generated. Well, let's just call it logs, because there's so many different things, and it's got to be generic enough, but yet pertain enough to the fact that we're going to be storing all this other stuff. So we will kind of create a subfolder. Incoming inspection logs. My computer wants to take its sweet time. Go. All right. So we know that's where we're going to put it. So let's just save as. Document. Let's see. Here's too far. Public files. Logs. Now, did it want to? Yes. So once it call it that, but we'll give it a different name. And we're not going to create that. Like I said, we'll go to XLSX. Incoming inspection, first article inspection. We'll just go there. MDL004 incoming inspection. All right, XLSX. All right. So we're going to say that's going to be on logs. There we go. All right. And then this, let's just get rid of that for now. Because this is basically just incoming inspection. So now we know what we're going to, where the file is, what's going to be saved to. Let's go and kind of work this out. So let's give it file name. Let's put it up there for now. Kind of hold it. Because what we could do is, what might be better. Let's see if we can get into the footer. Headers and footers. Okay. So that in the footer. All right. Okay. So let's kind of work out what we want to do. I always like to kind of start a couple rows down so I have up here to easily work with. So inspection date. Basically the initials of the name of the person who did the inspection. Well, we can do inspected by. That way we have the accountability train. So we have the inspection date, which, like I said, will serve, we'll be going from, top to bottom. The newest date will be at the bottom. Unfortunately, there's nothing else we can do about that. There might be something we can try to do, and we'll try, but basically we're going to create a template right now. Inspected by PO. So that'd be the purchase order. Vendor. Now, so here's what you can do. So inspection date could be a couple of days from the day you receive it. Sometimes you want to put a receive date. It's really up to you. So if you want to use this to help vendor metrics, their performance metrics, which is part of ISO, because you should always review your vendors to make sure that they are following what they say they're going to do. So we could leave that in there. So the date you actually receive the package, or the products. So we have the inspection date, the inspected by, the purchase order, the vendor. Okay. Kind of push that out. All right. I like doing things like this. Tools. Where's the merge center? Merge. This is merge. Let's go and center that. That's fine. Internal part number. Okay. So that'd be like our RC0603 part number. You can pull that out of when you're in. So when the receiving technician would be in Odo to receive the parts, the products, they can grab the part off of there, the part number out of Odo for that. So internal part number. Now we need to determine, do we want to log the, do we want to basically granulate the experience here of what they're supposed to be looking at, or just kind of give an overview? So I think we'll just do an overview. So visual pass. So the electrical pass, don't like doing that all the time, but I don't want to waste for that. So did it pass electrical? If it doesn't require an electrical check, you can put NA and that's fine. So visual pass, dimension pass. Let's go ahead. I'd rather just do this. Dimension pass. So that'll be like your PCB. Does it pass the visual check? All right, so let's see here. Now, so that'll be that. Now we want kind of like maybe a NCM, non-conforming material, and NCM number. So just a really quick checkbox for like, is it non-conforming material? And if it is, generally when you have the non-conforming log, you would generate a non-conforming number, so everything kind of ties together. So generally, you would have the technician who's checking the products in have the access to the NCM log as well, so they can log that, and everything's going to be tied together. So this will be that. So let's go ahead and format version center. We're going to show you what we're going to do here. So I'm going to right, what we should be able to do is just drag this down. Yes. So drag the merging down. All right. Well, at least let's grab this and come down here. We're going to format cells. I like borders. All right. All right. So we have that. So it's kind of incoming log. Kind of put that in the middle, bold. Okay, let's just kind of use up the space a little bit. All right, incoming inspection log. Don't really have to, but you know. Might as well kind of make things look pretty. Might as well. So we have an incoming inspection log. Let's all these guys in the center. Don't have to, but you know what? I like it. Let's do that. All right. Now, what we can do for this, there's one or two things what we can do. Well, let's kind of finish this up here. So we have the, let's go to view. Let's go to the headers and footers. Go to the footers. Let's move this over here. This go over here. And then form revision. Put that in there. Inspection log. Now let's see here. Do we really need anything else here? I Again, we don't have to be super fancy. Freeze rows and columns. Okay, freeze it so as we scroll down, we don't lose our headings, a lot easier. Save that. So we're going to rename this. Well, there's one or two ways we can do this. And I think let's just do this way. Rename sheet. We're going to call it template. We're going to move or copy sheet. Insert before. We're going to name it 2025. So we can have one running sheet per year. And then the template, we can always come back over here, right click. Let's go ahead and move or copy sheet. We're going to move it before there and 2026. Boom. Because it would be certain 2026. Now what we can do is kind of drag this, we can move. We can even move it to the end position and not do that. We're just going to move. Okay. We can move it to the end position after template when the year's over. That way, it'll be the first sheet we run into. So that's our incoming inspection log. Now, there's another thing we can do. We can add another sheet to this, and make it like an instructions for use, but that'll actually be, we can actually put that into a work instruction for this process if we so choose to, if it's unclear how to use it. So anytime you would definitely, you would have something that could be unclear, that could be mistaken, people not, the process not followed properly, you would definitely want to create a work instruction, bare minimum, to help outline that, explain that. So we may want to generate a work instruction for this, but let's go ahead and kind of coming inspection. So do we don't have the NCM. So here's that. So that's going to be the heading for that. So let's go ahead. Let's go and kind of create this while we're here. MDL006. NCM log dot XLXS. Now let's go ahead and logs for non-conforming. So inspection logs. So we're going to go here, new folder. Non-conforming. So log. Oh, come here. We're going to go actually create a new spreadsheet. We're going to save this one as non-conforming Excel. There we go. We have our non-conforming log. So that'll be the log, but we'll also have to write the standard operating procedure for non-conforming. Now, again, we'll come down here. We'll just the header and footer here in a minute. Actually, let's go ahead and do that. Insert footer. Left area. Control X, Control V. Revision 1, that's for the actual form. So what we're going to do is we're going to date entered, date resolved, or actually let's do dispositioned. Actually, we'll do that here later. So we have date entered, we have the PO, vendor, part number, center. So we have date entered, the PO, sort of columns. So entered by. That way we have accountability. Again, the accountability chain never goes away. So we have the editor who entered the non-conformant, the PO, the vendor, the internal part number, and then the NCM. You know what? Let's do that here. Insert column before, NCM number. So the great part about this is the time to when you're developing your system. This is the best time to do all this, is to play around different ideas, see what works, figure out what works, what doesn't work. So when so the right way to do things would be to control. You get an idea, you get something set up the way you want it to, the way it looks good, and you basically freeze any changes to the forms or the templates, and then you have a process for updating and changing them. But being by yourself, you're kind of developing this system to suit your business, your needs. If you've never worked with these type of things before, you might want to change things. And honestly, to be truthful, it can get cumbersome to have all these version control systems and processes. Is it the right way? No, it's not the right way. But again, I understand that when you're developing your system, trying to get things going without experience working with it, sometimes you don't want to deal with the cumbersome of generating like engineering change notices, any documentation saying, hey, I had to change this template or whatever. So I would suggest for a little while, if you are doing something like this for yourself, just learn to get in the flow. Try not to make too many changes. Make them as you need them to better suit what you're trying to do. If you want to dress things up, make things look a little fancier with your company logo or slogans, whatever, you can pretty much go full ham on this stuff. But I would definitely suggest just make it easier on yourself at first, starting out, because there's going to be a lot of stuff in flux when you're developing everything from scratch. And if you're definitely not going for ISO certification right away, if you're not expecting to do that for several years out, definitely don't worry about it too much. But don't also fall into the bad habits of just avoiding everything completely. Be diligent. So just be mindful of that. Be mindful of the easy demon, as I've mentioned before. Just be mindful of that, because that will oftentimes cause you more problems than anything. So we have, let's see, NCM number. So we'll have to figure out how we want to generate the NCM number. So that will be a work instruction. So let's see here. or it could be in the SOP. So again, I'm going to use a Copilot because it formats things and makes everything so much nicer. So I'm having it generate the SOP for non-conforming materials. All right. Now, that's why I like Copilot, because it's also formatting everything, and because it's within the same, basically, chat, the conversation that I've been doing, everything's going to basically follow the same structure. That's one of the reasons I like Copilot. And again, we'll check it for accuracy. It's going finish going here. Non-conforming materials. All right. So that's going to be an SOP. We're going to new file, SOP dash NCM dash 001. Non-conforming materials. .md. Boom. Copy that. Copy paste that in there. Make sure it says the right stuff. NCM. Blah, 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 blah. It's like hallucinating the date. I don't know why it's doing that. I do not know. The owner would be the quality assurance lead. Technically, that's me or you if you're following along doing this. So let's see here. So let's make sure this works because this all ties in together. Define the process. Inspection. So you can also run into NCM non-conforming materials during these other. So, you know, if you have an assembly failure or you have a failure during testing, or even a customer returns a product, that would be considered non-conforming material. Again, that's why you want to segregate all that. See, again, it's just trying to tie everything to that idea that I started working with to help organize my thoughts. And finished units for customer consumption. We can change the wording later if that doesn't sound right. Who cares? Non-conforming material. Right here. It's just easier to read over here. Yep. Okay. Purchase order requirements. Quarantine. Okay. Kappa. So that is another process. Another log. So that's what I was trying to say. The process of resolving. Of doing the disposition. So it could be just something as simple as saying, hey, you know, is a test failure, like too much voltage was applied, we destroyed the power supply or damaged the board so it couldn't be reworked. Basic documentation saying, you know, best prevention is just pay more attention, you know. Technician just has to pay better attention to what they're doing. No real things. But then it can also snowball into contacting vendors and saying, hey, you really messed this up. You sent us, you know, bad parts or, you know, a whole bad batch or something, and we have to figure out corrective action. And then disposition. So follows that, you know. So scrap. That's a whole other thing. So there might be work instructions. Who knows? It depends. Okay, QA lead, receiving technician, design lead, blah, blah, blah. That works. Yep. Owns the ends. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Yep. Basically, you want to make sure that all the roles are clearly defined. So in a sense, so if you want to look at a project management, you're basically creating a RACI chart, RACI. So RACI just here. AC. So responsible, accountable. I probably spelled that wrong. Yes, I did. Spell it. Oh. It wanted to fix it. Conferred. Okay. And informed. So responsible. So basically you outline who's actually responsible for the tasks. So in this, basically, who's responsible. Basically the role, who fits that role. Accountable are the people who you go to when things aren't done properly or not done at all. That's the person who takes accountability for the person who's responsible. Now, sometimes it can be the one and the same person. So the person doing the job is also accountable. Conferred, actually we can also do consultant. That's probably the better term for it. Consultant. So that basically means a person or an entity or whoever that you would go to just to consult with. Say, hey, look, I've run this problem. Can you just give me some advice? Or you can, whatever. Informed is basically just anybody who has a stake in what's going on with that process. You just inform them. You just, an email, a quick hey in the hallway, you just inform them what's going on, if they so choose, really depends. And all that's usually defined, within the organization, within what you're doing. So, with like this, roles and responsibilities, if you look at it from a RACI point of view, from project management, the responsible would be like, the receiving technician, they're responsible for it. Person who's accountable would technically be the quality assurance lead, the person who's in charge of the quality department. They're the ones actually accountable to make sure all this gets done. Consulted could mean, like if you need to talk to like another quality assurance technician, you need to talk to another engineer, say, hey, if you're like, you got a bad board or something, you want to just like consult with somebody. They're technically not really in here. Yeah, actually design lead. They could be considered the consultant. And informed would be like informing your supervisor that, or your direct lead or whatever, that, hey, these parts failed, they're bad, they have to go into quarantine or blah, blah, blah. Technically, since the QA lead is accountable, they're also informed, but that's assumed because they're accountable. But sometimes it's best not to assume that, because we all know how that goes. So you can count them as informed. You have to say, hey, look, I had to kick a product into quarantine because it was an NCM. So you'd have to let the QA lead and anybody who needs to know this, like a production manager. If, let's say, you have a whole box full of parts that are bad and they're needed for production, you have to let the production manager know that they're not going to be able to build their boards or build their product. So that's basically what you're doing. There's a lot of tie-ins, a lot of shared things between these systems. So that looks okay. I might have to adjust later. When to initiate an NCM record. See, I like this. Yep. Okay, all that. Yep. So yeah. So, yep. Okay. So, I'm trying to go down the wrong one. So, here we go. So I'm going to kind of go over to my other, because I don't want to show everything. So I'm going to just kind of, so here we go. Is this? All right. I don't like this one. see if I can I don't want to waste. Here we go. Here we go. So just kind of slide this in just to kind of show you. So there's a process we call red tagging. So in the world of QMS, red means bad. And we might as well just cover that real quick. So red means bad. Red means you have to pay really attention to what's going on. So basically this would be like a red tag. These would be ideal to use for non-conforming material. Basically just fill it out. The inspector would be, whoever is the one writing the tag up. Just enough information. We could even use the back. And this would get attached and stored with the product that you are rejecting. Or you're not rejecting, you're basically segregating it. So it's called red tagging. Now, there's another thing to pay attention to with QMS, and I might as well just cover that here real quick. So it's called redlining. So what the process of redlining is, so let's say you've got a like this process, okay? You're using it on the floor, a technician's using it, the receiving tech, whoever's using it, all right? They're following this. So basically what happens, they find a discrepancy, a problem with this document. So what they would do idealistically, and yes, I know in the digital age, a lot of people use a lot of paper, but unfortunately, paper is still highly used. Printed copies are still highly used, and it creates like an ownership chain and things like that. And it's just a little bit easier to use and do this. So they would print out or have a printout copy of this, of the procedure. And they would use a red pen, and they would just strike a single line through like this line of text. Don't like blot it out completely, just a single red line through the middle. Then off to the side, they would put notes, what they found wrong, what they think could change, with the date and their initials. And then they would turn this into the QA. Well, depending on the chain of command, if you had a bigger company, it would go to whoever's responsible or whoever's your direct supervisor, your direct lead. You would hand it to them or hand it to the quality assurance manager or a technician so they could go through this, maybe assign it to an engineer to do an engineering change, assign it to, or have the QA team look through and see about rewriting and fixing the process and handle all the versioning for document control. It's called redlining. So as a general rule, anything on a production floor, if you're writing like with pens or Sharpies or anything like that, red is not to be used for anything other than redlining or marking mistakes like this. Blue and black pens are the only colors allowed. That's, you can let people use red. It doesn't really say anywhere in the standard, but it's much easier if you just say, hey, red pens are not allowed, period. We only want them used for redlining. Blue or black pens only, or Sharpies or whatever. That way it's much easier to separate things. So quarantine, so you would have to have a designated bin. So it comes back to what I was saying yesterday, is an area that's controlled. A quarantine area that may be locked, like a lockable cabinet, or a specific office location, or somewhere that only one person is supposed to technically have access to. Even if the process say, hey, I've got these boards or this box of product, I hand it directly to the quality manager and they put it where it needs to go. Either way, it needs to be segregated in a controlled space. And this, again, is what I was saying, that one of the companies I work for had a policy where you pulled material and you sent it to the customer out of the NCM storage area, that's quarantine area, you were fired immediately. No questions asked. It was policy. This is one of those big things. So NCM, MDL 006, which we are working on right here. Okay, so it actually is kind of laying out what we want. You know, part number, supplier with the vendor, lot date code, photos or measurements, discovery point. Yeah, since it's going to be covered there, so I'm going to kind of make this a little smaller. See, and that's what I like about this. It's going to kind of break things down a little bit and give us that. So this is, so let's see, internal part number, the vendor, the PO it came from, lot number, which we'll get into, quantity, photos or measurements. That's kind of technically part of the description of issue. Issue. Now that is going to be, you want to make sure there's plenty of room for this, so. Merge and center those. Issue description. So the description can cover that, and oh, why? Just like doing this. All right. Yeah, stop. Don't get out of control for me, buddy. Come on here. Merge and center. Boop. All right. Okay. Now this information over here, the evaluation, will go on this. This is just the non-conforming material log, because then you would have the basically a disposition. Oh no, we could actually do it here. Review, determine if disposition. Okay. So let's get back. Let's make sure. So I want to Okay. Yeah. So we do want to kind of we do want to record the disposition. Wrong button. All right. Disposition, we'll make that 2. And that's where we'll put what happened with it. That way it's not left lingering in here. And then date. Date. No. Or disposition date. I don't know why. There we go. That way. Oh, see. Didn't like the fact I was trying to do it the other way. Sometimes I wonder how dumb I really am sometimes. Okay, so that way, the stuff in this log doesn't just say it's staying here forever. So there's a lot more here, but that's fine, because technically we're not planning on printing it. So oh. So you need to have accountability again right there. Who dispositioned it? Technically, as your organization grows, you can have multiple people that have the authority to disposition, like maybe a production supervisor, they might be okay, especially if the disposition is just like just ship it, use it. Like if it's a minor cosmetic issue, like a label slightly rotated out. It's all policy how you wanna run things. So what we're going to do is kind of what we did in the other one. Again, this is malleable. Log. Pop that there. Pop that there. We're gonna bold it. Bring it up bigger. And delete those. All right. Get this because we're gonna make this into a template as well. All right. I think what we can do, grab this, grab that, format, cells, border, boom. I think what we can do is go here, grab that, and do this. Yes, all right. Now what we can do, if we really wanted to, we can do that. We can do format cells. We can do the number. And we can do date. Any way we want. We'll just leave it that format for now. Do date there. Disposition date. Do that. Format cell. Same thing. We'll do date. Okay. There we go. Quantity. Okay. And so disposition. Because also then once things are dispositioned, people have to be informed again. So if the disposition was to scrap like bad boards and you need production, you need to let the production manager know they need to build more boards to fulfill an order, or you would need to let whoever know they need to order more parts to get production going again. It's a whole snowball of a process. But again, like what I said, one of the reasons I really like this system is it just doesn't leave anything up to chance. And what we can do, move or copy, or we'll just go and leave it 2025. Doesn't mean we're going to have any NCMs, non-conforming materials, but you never know. Because technically there will be one, and it will be that the PCBs coming in. I don't know if they'll be in before the end of 2025. We'll see. We'll find out. Because definitely on Christmas Eve, I'm definitely, even if they would be dates that I'd be streaming, I'm not going to stream. I'm not going to do any videos, unfortunately. They're holidays. I'm just going to take my time, enjoy the days, spend time with my wife, and things like that. So depending, we may not even fill anything out for 2025. But it's ready for us, just in case we have to. If not, we'll just rename it to 2026 and just start there, since nothing will be on it. So we'll leave that alone. We have the non-conforming materials log. So does that say? Okay. So accept as is, rework, execute disposition. So basically, you would actually do things, return to sender items, packed and documented. Okay. Here's another thing, too. EHS, Environmental Health and Safety. So, that's another big thing. Within companies, within manufacturing, the manufacturing space is EHS, Environmental Health and Safety. Some companies is really big on. One of the companies I worked for in the past, EHS was a big part of them. They were also ISO 14001 certified, which is basically environmental standards. So you would need to figure out how you're going to handle scrap materials. And to be honest, it's not a good look to be just throwing this stuff away in the waste stream. There are companies that you can scrap electronics with. So if you get big enough, there are companies that will actually buy your scrap from you. So what they'll do is you contact them. I'll have to see if I can find the name of the company that I worked with at my last job. But basically, you contact them, you let them know who you are, what you're doing. And a lot of times they'll bring a Gaylord out to you, a very large cardboard box. For those who don't know what it is, very large cardboard box on a pallet. If you've got the room for it, or if you're collecting small boxes worth of scrap, sometimes they'll be able to make a trip if they're in the area and drop off or pick up from you. So basically, what they'll do is they'll take your boxes of scrap, they'll weigh it. They'll figure out, and they'll actually run the process through. They'll actually scrap it, and they'll separate the metals, all the precious metals, copper, gold, any metal that they can extract and make money off of. Then what they'll do is anything they have to dispose of in the normal waste stream, such as like an old CRT television or computer monitor that they can't recycle properly. They'll deduct that from the amount of money they owe you. They'll deduct any of their processing fees and, their kind of premium for doing the work for you. And they'll just send you a check for the remaining balance. So if you scrap like a lot of gold-plated boards, a lot with, components, a lot of copper wire from like trimmings. Basically, if you're one of those companies or individuals that basically just store every little scrap waste product, like electronic component, even full components, bolt PCBs that are unpopulated, populated, any wire clipping, if you salvage all that and you send it, they'll give you a check for anything remaining. It's not much, but in a sense, you're not paying somebody else to get rid of the stuff. Somebody's actually paying you to take it off your hands. So that would be the way to go. I think there's a couple of local companies, at least to me, where I am, that do this. So those are the better ways of doing it. Otherwise, you're gonna have to pay properly to get rid of this stuff. But please don't put electronic waste in the normal waste stream. There's too much of that already, and we can do better. We really can. And if you can make a little extra money, some of your money back from proper scrap, there you go. Why not? Okay, so determine the need for Kappa. Okay, you close the record. Basically, you update it with final status. That's basically closing the record. What we did. That's why we put this disposition date and disposition by. That basically closes the record for us. Determine need for Kappa. That is basically, so we may have to put that in a Kappa tract. Well, that could be part of the disposition. You can put that as, Kappa corrective action, basically taken. That could be a disposition. And I like how it's telling, our document retention, 7 years. Now, some customers will have their own requirements. Again, could be flow downs. If you are doing designs for another company, they may have their own requirements on how long you retain records. So you would definitely note that. And if it's a record pertaining to just them, you could note that in the records, or note it in the MDL, or the Master Documents List. Somewhere you want to note that for customer X, we have to store their records for 10 years. But that's all, up to you, or up to, your agreements. So we'll have to create a CAPA, deal with a CAPA, probably in the next video, because this stuff takes a while. The right processes and proper documentation, it takes a while. But at the end of the day, when you're doing your thing, pushing product out the door, it makes sense, and it will help you. It helps you create rhythms. It helps you just fall into processes that you follow when you're manufacturing, when you're pulling in goods. You get into a rhythm, and it gets easier the more you do it. So KPIs, your key performance indicators, that's kind of cool that it gives you that. Again, repeat suppliers comes right back to supplier effectiveness and your supplier audits. So all of this goes together. So these are like targets for your key performance indicators. Technically, so as a general rule, and I'm going to put this out there. So one of the things I actually saw during the audit phase for AS9100 was the auditor basically told the one guy who was in charge that ISO doesn't care about your profit, your income. It's not about income. It's not about the amount of money you make. They don't care about how much money you make. The dollar figures and dollar amounts that they were trying to put on some of the ISO documentation, the auditor said, no, we don't care about that. That's not what your focus is. Your focus is a quality, being able to have repeatable results every time. This technically does work within ISO because it's not really looking at the dollar amount. So this right here would definitely be part of the supplier audit. You would definitely want to basically make sure your non-conformance materials are handled within a reasonable time frame. Your scrap rate matters because I think that is part of the ISO standard. Basically, I think it has to do with effectiveness, but I'll double check. And then, performance, because that, again, follows upon with vendor reliability and stuff. Escalation path, which I like. Unfortunately, for a one-man show, you're everything. Okay, revision history. Okay, I'm the QA lead, so again, there we go. It's hallucinating the date. So that's when. All right, so that's this. So we kind of worked on this. Let's see, inspection criteria. Kind of come back to this. Non-conformance handling. Okay, red tag. Records of retention again. We'll probably have to clean all this up, fix this over time while we figure out where we want to store all this stuff. Again, that's part of the problem. KPIs falls into vendor reliability. We want to make sure that we're not waiting too long to do any of this because it affects that. Supplier reliability. Again, supplier reliability. So KPIs tie into that stuff. Let's just put today's date on here. Well, no, 12-13 because I think I started on it yesterday. But that's fine. Again, not perfect. A lot to go through and clean up. And you'll have to, if you're doing this for yourself, following along, using these files for yourself, you'll have to definitely go through and make everything make sense for you and how you want to organize your process, your company. But this gives you the foundations to start off of. So that's two of these really taken care of. And about an hour into the video, so I will call it here. Tomorrow's Monday. I'll be streaming at 6 p.m. my normal time. So, like I said, we'll call it here. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for watching. I hope I didn't bury you or bore you too much in the whole idea of documentation, but this is important. This is part of the process. Part of what I would suggest you do if you do plan on making a business out of designing and manufacturing products. It never hurts. Yes, it's extra work, but extra work now to get yourself into good habits and good processes doesn't hurt. It only benefits you long run. Even if you never become ISO certified, you still have the foundations. You are still following good processes, good industry processes, good practices, and there's never anything wrong with that. No one will fault you. You may get laughed at, people, because I've heard people like laugh when I bring up ISO and things like that. Like, oh, why? Well, I've already run into it. I've already run into working with a company that I asked if they had ISO, if they were ISO certified. And they laughed about it, like, oh, like it's a big joke. But then I witnessed firsthand how honestly fly by night they seem to be. It's like, okay, well, you not having ISO and you laughing about it tells me everything I need to know about your company, about your values, what you prioritize. You definitely don't prioritize quality. You definitely don't prioritize your customers. Because you laughed about something like that. It's like, okay, I'm never going to do business with your company. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, but to laugh about it, to like make it a joke. No, I'm sorry. I've done this long enough and I take this seriously. If you want to laugh about stuff like this, I'm never going to do business with you. It's just to me, because no matter what anybody thinks, and I'm just going to be blunt with it, even if you don't formalize anything, if you have nothing written down, you still have a QMS system. You still have your own system. No matter what you think, if you follow any way of doing things, like, oh, hey, I order parts, I pull them in, I label them, I store them here, I build boards, and I kind of do this the same way every time, you do have a QMS system. It's not documented. It may not be the best system. It might actually be a pretty disorganized and crappy system, to be honest. But you still have a QMS system. Especially if you repeat things the same way every time, you still have a system. If you have a place you store stuff, you have a system. If no matter what, if you record any kind of data, you have a QMS system. So to me, it's best just to formalize it, make it nice, streamline it, take the time, put the effort in. So we will leave this here. The next time we will try to kind of go over this, gloss over this a little bit more, kind of see if we need to really write anything else that pertains to these at the moment, which I wouldn't say so. Some of it we can deal with at the point of necessity, because there's a bunch of other documentation we need to write. And some of that is testing documentation for the product coming in, for the stepper driver. So we want to definitely write all of our basically our test plan for it, and our the results paperwork and stuff like that. So thanks for checking us out. Have a good rest of your afternoon, and catch you tomorrow.